person here. Maybe I should say something during the day, like, hey, I'm going to be live today. Well, there's 3 people in there. Huh, okay, there's 6 people. Nobody's commenting, though. Can't tell if they hear me. Can't tell if they see me. They can say hello. What? Are you even watching me?
I'm trying to. My earphones.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's some. Okay. Hello, Wayne. Hello. Good afternoon. Did you get that truck all fixed? Yes, my truck's fixed. My AC's up. So. There it goes. Better. Okay, we're getting ready to go. We're boosting it up. Let some people join in. And very good afternoon, everybody. There we go. I see ya. All right. There we start. So this week, we'll kick things off because we're letting things spool up. Give me something to talk about. For any questions come running in and stuff, and people see at the beginning. This is the late 90s Les Paul. Really nice. Probably the heaviest guitar I own. This thing weighs a ton. Very thick body. Very thick body. Notice the mismatched knobs on it. It's got the backward pickup on it. This is basically represents Peter Green's 1959 Les Paul, which is known as the Lemon Burst, which it was actually a sunburst, but it wore down, and then it just looked like a bit of a yellow burst. But really nice guitar, but heavy guitar. All the tone in it is the guitar because it's just a big piece of wood with very heavy strings. Someone's always bound to ask the question like, what gauge strings are you using? And like I always say, your hands are the tone, but the tone I get, because this is just the amp, we're not really, I think there's a little reverb in there, but generally the tone on this, and it's a very deep sounding guitar. Most people, and if you play the guitar, you probably play 07s or 08s or even 09s. I play 16s, so it tells you how heavy a gauge of string I use. Main reason is because I break strings a lot. So I play with a very heavy gauge string because I have a tendency with the pick and stuff, what I do pick, I have a tendency to snap strings. See you now. Hello, 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 hi Wayne. Everybody's joining in, and so there we are. But yes, so this is basically a reissue of Peter Green's 59 Les Paul. So very nice guitar, nice, really heavy built. The reverse pickup I don't think does a thing. It's not out of phase. So even though when we started it up it was out of phase, and I was asking Trevor about it why. But it seemed to stop that. But yeah, it was out of phase a little bit. But that's supposed to be when the pickup's in the center position, it's out of phase. And then when it's in the upper position, it's not supposed to be something like that. But it sounds... yeah, it's not playing out of phase. So it must have been something set on the amp wrong. Anyways, that's another one of them. It's usually up there in the back. Everybody's seen it from time to time. So there's part of that little segment we've been doing. Do you think the LDM has been found? No, it hasn't been found. There's people always claim they do find it. Looks like a glass of wine. No, it's a Coca-Cola cup with Dr. Pepper, though. It's too early yet. Too early in the day. Amazed at how many people do not know about Les Paul. Les Paul was an incredible guitarist. Fascinating, him and Mary Ford. But yeah, incredible guitarist. And the solid body guitar, we have to thank him. Well, two people, Leo Fender and Les Paul. Because Les Paul really made them kind of stylize this, and we got away from the hollow bodies. Put this down because I don't want to bang it up on stuff and all. But really nice guitar. Expensive guitar. So there we go. A little of this, a little of that. So go down the list there and I see Terry's in. Hi, Terry. And Stephen, and then there's Herbert, and Vixen, and Jill, and Unpronounceable, and that's what happens sometimes. Frog 5. Yeah, it's not a glass of wine. Wine's better for you instead of soda. Wine gives me a headache. So if I drink a glass of wine, I always get a headache, tension headache. So I don't know what it is. I've heard that happens to people. Well, here's something we've avoided all this time, what I got. This is very interesting. So, this is a very interesting thing. See if anybody recognizes what it is, but I have one of these, which is very cool. And maybe I will, I don't have to explain it, because anyone that knows and knows how cool this is thinks it's very cool, and those of you who don't understand. So that's very cool. So I have one of those. Yes, it's an object. It's an obelisk. It's a thing. So there we go. All right. All right. Wine's better for you instead of soda. Might be grape knee-high. No, it's Dr. Pepper. So it's Dr. Pepper. I don't know. I really like Dr. Pepper. So anyhow, there you go. So getting started this Friday. Missed last Friday. My truck was in the shop and it was supposed to be done, and then they didn't call me. And by the time they called me, then I didn't have a ride because everybody at work had finished their shift and went home. I was going to get someone to run me by, drop me off so I could pick up my truck. So I was stuck, and then I waited, and then I finally got them. They said they'd send me a shuttle, and then the guy with the shuttle, I ended up going out and standing on the street corner so he wouldn't miss me, and then he drove by me and drove about a quarter mile down the road, and then I realized he was sitting there waiting and was going to leave when I didn't show up, so then I had to go down, walk down, and actually catch him before he left. So it kind of all the way around sucked, but my truck's back, the AC works, and they basically only charged me for the environmental fees and changing the cabin filter, but all the rest of the repairs and everything on the truck were warranty and free. So I made off good on that end of it. Yes. So the object. I like Dr. Pepper too. You have an object? Yes, I do. Look like a rainbow obsidian carving of Spider-Woman's rock. Okay. Don't know about that. With all the decades of searching, why do you think the LDM has not been found? Because nobody's come across it yet. There's a lot of reasons. I think a lot of people will look in the wrong spots. There's a lot of people that will do absolutely the most ridiculous things, and they will take the most ridiculous sources or the worst possible information. But I think I can sum up probably 75% of the searchers this way. Greg Davis, who was a founder of the Superstition Mountain Museum, is also one of the board of directors, is the directors of acquisition and research, and has the archives, as well as those of the Dons of Arizona, and is a good friend of mine. Greg once said, most Dutch hunters don't get more than 50 yards off the trail. And that is absolutely true. I've time and time looked at things where camps were and stuff. People would literally establish camps in very well-known worked areas, and then they would just sit there and camp in it and then just search out that camp and spend a lot of time at camp. In fact, I talked to someone today about it and said, you can go out and look for treasure, you can go look for something, or you can go out with some friends and then kind of look and then drink some beer and have a good time and say, that was a really great trip. And that happens far more than people realize. And I don't even think the people sometimes doing the searching realize how bad their efforts are. But I've run into many things like that. So that's kind of why people don't find it. How did you get your hands on an object? Is it authentic? Mine says Led Zeppelin Presence on it. So, is it authentic? It's authentically mine. So I have an object. So there we go. I have an object. I have lots of interesting... See, I like the unique things, you know. And thank you, Trevor, for my object. So... But I like those sweet, interesting little things that sit there. Most people may not know what it is, but some people do. But it's that quirky thing that you kind of like go, huh, you have one of those. Where'd that come from? So I always like those type of things. Let's go through here. Geological processes over decades have altered land. I don't think the geological process has changed that. Thanks for your insights, but I don't think the geological... I never give the earthquake theory any credence whatsoever, because going through the mountains, I've seen rocks that literally I feel like 3 or 4 guys could tip over off the top of another rock, and they've been there for possibly a million years, and they haven't moved. This whole thing about the earthquake changed the landscape in the superstitions, I really doubt that. There's erosion and things like that have changed. Fires, there's certain things, the growth, I'm sure the fauna is much different than it was 100, 150 years ago. But overall, the scheme of things, as far as a major geological change, I don't really think it's that much of something at all. I think it's generally the searchers, and when people grid out and work areas, it's also a mine that's a pit in an arroyo at an angle, and probably is filled in. And I think one of the big things is, like, a lot of people were lazy. Let's face it. There was a lot of people lived back in the mountains, and I think they spent more time in camp thinking about where it might be than actually doing any digging. There's very few people I know of that really did anything majorly digging and stuff. You know, Crazy Jake did a lot of blasting and stuff up in there. And let's see, I know Peck did. Al Morrow did with the Jester and stuff. Glenn McGill obviously did some stuff. But there's the guys that did physically try to move earth and stuff. But when you go back in the mountains, you never find anything significant like, man, they really, really put it. You always think, man, today, you know, get in there, and especially an area if you could get a backhoe in, how much the difference you could make, which Chuck Crawford did on a couple spots. Completely obliterated them in the process. But yeah, back then, people generally didn't veer very far off. They probably enjoyed their time in the mountains more than they should have, than actually spent searching. And then a lot of people didn't put a lot of effort in. And it's classic of, you know, Brian Lichtman talked how Al Morrow and, you know, even Chuck Ayler, they would, like, think about things, and then they would search. And then some of these guys would get stuck on something. And like the Jester with Al Morrow, I mean, there's no rhyme, reason, purpose for that Jester. No one has a clue. If he was getting any gold, it was so minimal it didn't really matter. But he was digging away and working on that, and it ultimately cost him his life in one way or the other. So a lot of times with these guys, and then they'd jump around. They just didn't have the patience. They'd work a certain area, and then they would just jump as soon as they would hear everybody somewhere else. And Peters Mesa was a great reasoning. You know, everybody at a certain point heard information concerning Peters Mesa, and after Crazy Jake had been out there and pushed out of there, Peters Mesa gained some traction, and then there was some stuff and a few things in some books, and everybody went up to Peters Mesa and acted like Peters Mesa was the godsend. Even stories that happened on Bluff Springs or Coffee Flat ended up happening on Peters Mesa, so they literally created its own myth over there. Well, if you're in the wrong area, you're not going to find it, and a lot of people were in particular certain areas. So you look in areas where you know people were, or where you have actual early stories of where people searched. Because even if you doubt their information of thinking, well, he was an idiot, why was he searching there? Yeah, but he was in there early, so he probably had some information we don't understand or we don't realize or wasn't released to all of us. Okay, so we're in the darks here, so quirky is always interesting. I think more along the lines, okay, that's the erosion. Yes, fauna would be quite different. And you said you might, Frank's store, the pocket watch. Any update on that? No, I haven't giving him the pocket watch. I haven't seen Frank. Nature will open the LDM someday. Nature has incredible resources. Change that. No, I haven't given that. In fact, someone asked before. I'll drop this in. They asked where Shoes, and I can't remember who it was, where Shoes had gotten the Spanish armor from. And he actually says it in the video, because I was going to call him and ask him, but he says in the video it was in an auction in New Mexico. He purchased it. So he does go to a lot of auctions and stuff, and then he purchases a lot of stuff from people, because there's been many a times, where you been, or where are you going? Oh, I'm going to an auction, or I'm going to run up here and buy me some ore carts and stuff. So he likes to run around and pick up a lot of that stuff, and he finds a lot of interesting things. I always like to see what he purchases, buys, and what he brings back, and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's where he got that suit of armor. It was from an auction in New Mexico. So there you go there. What are you on one of these live sessions? Well, getting Frank is difficult because he's usually in the bath, and that means he'd electrocute himself, and I don't think we want to see him live in the bathtub. That'd be scary. Woody, I don't know if he's capable of the technology. The last time we tried to have Woody live with us, he couldn't get anything to work. And I thought about this week, and maybe next week I will do it. I was thinking, because one of the few people I can get on and talk to, at least talk to live, is kind of reliable on that, is Dalil. So I was thinking maybe getting Dalil and start with him, because he's somewhat more techno-savvy. With the others, if they're not physically there with you, it's probably not happening. So Woody could get some assistance, and then I don't know what it was. I'm trying to remember. I think he never got in. It was just like he was calling. He was supposed to be in. We were supposed to share screens, and it didn't work. But when Frank got in, if anybody remembers back, this is a couple of years, 2-3 years ago, Frank got in. He was upside down the whole time. Then he kept getting sideways. I don't know what he was doing, but he was sideways. He was upside down, and it was all kinds. It was funny as hell, but it really didn't work because of that. So. Excuse me. So you always want to do stuff like that and then expand it out to other people and talk to some other people and their stories and stuff on the lives, and do that every other week or something. That would be cool. It's just getting everybody on par up. And in fact, there's a podcast we'll be working on for someone else. It's an entirely different subject matter and all. Trevor will be involved in the production. I'm going to participate to assist the young man in getting his podcast up and going. And one of the things was he really wants to kind of be able to do it on his own, but we're going to help him get him started for their first 4 or 5 episodes. And a lot of people don't realize what it takes to kind of get something going. And we're going to run some episodes, put it together, get it out there for him. And I'll probably talk about it a little once it's out there and ready to go, and kind of give him a little love to see if we can get something going. But it'll be sports related, and I'll be taking part in that with a number of other individuals. So kind of one of those things where it's just a bunch of guys talking about sports. I'm sure that interests everybody, right? That's what guys do, though. Sometimes you got to talk about something different. So, okay, the pocket watch, we got through that. Landscape, you need to get Frank and Woody. Eric would be great. Eric would be fun. Eric's a good talker. Frank always seems a little sideways. Well, love your show. What are the chances of finding lost Dragoon pistols? I don't know. I was going to go through that story again because of what the other guys did, but it's kind of like they kind of beat that like I don't even want to say a dead horse, because saying they beat it to like a dead horse is an insult to a dead horse. I thought about doing something on it maybe in the next couple of weeks. I'll kind of run over it. They really kind of like, I don't know, it was like a 5-10 minute story, and they really just kind of drug that out. I've thought about it. I'll put something together for a Monday Chasing Legends on it, and I'll do that because I have been taking requests. We did the last 2 ones on the topographical maps. That's Dexter. Dexter's excited because someone came in the house. So he likes to yowza, and yes. Yeah, he's being somewhat good. Okay. So, but he should be getting going here in a second. Silly dog. But anyways, yeah, so that's that. But I don't like to, there's a weird thing of like, you go to do something and we all talk. There's a lot of talking between groups and it spreads between each other. And there's nothing I hate more than we talk about, yeah, we're the next 5, we're going to do these things. And then find someone else does one of those things or 2 of those things. And you're like, I'll still do it. But God, that kind of sucks because you're just kind of taking the same thing I'm taking. And I always hope that it's different. What I'm doing is different. So I hate to kind of there's nothing like just walking on the same thing. And I think Larry does that, doesn't it? Larry talks a lot about that. I like Larry. Larry's cool. So there you go. Jack's really cool too. I really like Jack. They haven't had Jack on at all much anymore. I just talked to Jack recently. We're going to have Jack on. Why not have Jack on? We'll do some stuff with Jack. There you go. We'll get Jack San Felice. He's written a bunch of books. Pump his books. Give Jack some love. He doesn't like talking about the Lost Pistols. It's not that I don't like it. It's just I feel like they did 3 or 4 or 5 different episodes on it. It's like, so what's on tonight's menu? Well, after the show, it's pizza. It's Friday. I always do pizza on Fridays. Pizza Friday, man. So it just depends which place we get it from, and that's just kind of like depends whether we want to go out and get it or have it brought in, what we want to do. So there's like 7 or 8 places.
We already have pizza.
Oh, is it homemade pizza?
It's not homemade. It's something
Oh.
about the store.
Yeah, the homemade pizza I made, so it was good.
Yeah.
Was the homemade pizza really good?
Yes.
Yes, it was very good. So I made good pizza. I can make a cold drink. I can make pizza. Okay, so that's basically after the show. Yeah, we're having some pizza, so I don't know what we're having, what kind of pizza. But we always have pizza. Sometimes on pizza nights, if they have, say, spaghetti or, what is it? They have ravioli or something like that, a side dish that I like. Sometimes I'll take a salad if I'm really sick of the pizza routine. But, yeah, it's kind of an Italian Friday. And then everybody here hates it because every Sunday I want spaghetti, no matter what. And what? Trevor likes the spaghetti on Sundays because I'm big. Growing up, we always had Sunday on spaghetti. Sunday spaghetti. And I don't know why. We weren't Italian, but I had an Italian aunt. But we always had spaghetti on Sundays. And I always thought that was like, I like spaghetti on Sundays. So, okay. So that's what's up for tonight. When will your next real expedition for the Dutchman Gold? Well, we got the truck fixed, so now we can start scouting again, and we got a few things that we didn't finish up this last spring. So, as soon as the weather clears, right now the weather is high 90s, humidity sitting between 60 and 70%, and it's just miserable out, and it will clear out and then go back up into the 1 teens. So it's waiting for the weather to cool off a bit, and a lot of that is the inside is for Frank. I can still... Trevor has talked about going out and shooting some stuff and do some stuff, but generally getting Frank involved, I got to wait for the weather to get cooler and stuff, and definitely for Woody because last time it wasn't even that warm out, and the weather took Woody down pretty quick. It was in the 80s, so we need to make sure the weather's appealing for both of them. So that's usually the rendezvous, the kickoff to where the season's getting cool enough we can get out there. A lot of people don't like to go out either because there's a lot of snakes out there, and they want the snakes to be kind of minimal, okay? Because snakes are out there 365 days a year, but they like to minimize the snakes. So there's nothing like early in the morning and running across 12 rattlesnakes in a mile. So, but we will be going out. It's hot everywhere. But there's... Hot's relevant. I mean, here, I get up in the morning, it's 90 degrees, Actually, a lot of mornings I get up, it's 95, 96 degrees, and I get up and start for work 4:30 in the morning. So just put that in your hat. So it's some people's high is my low. It's hot. And, without that AC, that really sucks. So, but it kept me in, and I'm pretty good. But... yeah, there's no reason to push it. There's nothing I see because some of the stuff we want to do and some of the stuff we want to wrap up and some of the things we were in, we got a ton of good footage, a ton of great stuff. And we will be working on more of that tomorrow, not the stuff in the field, but kind of laying things out. We really wanted to do much better explanation of who, what, why, and when in the history of those specific things. So I'll be working on a lot of that this weekend. Recently watched the Legend show again, and I really enjoy your series on the filming locations. And is it really Tuttle? No, it's Tonto National Forest. Tuttle National Forest. That's funny. They should name it after me, damn it. But yeah, I had fun doing this. Yeah, that was something people had asked, and I wanted to find a way to do it. My original way was, you want me to just sit at a table and put my finger on a map and move it around and stuff. And then I was like, well, how many maps do I need to do this? And do I need to do each section differently? We will do it again. I want to do it some of the episodes. I've made a list of 10 or 12 episodes of Chasing Legends we've done about certain specific stories, and I want to show where things are. So I want to do that to show, get people relevant and stuff. Bob Ward drew a cool map that he put a lot of little marks on. It was with Ripples of Lost Echoes originally. And he drew the map. He was a really good artist. And then he put numbers and where all these stories went to and all. And I'd like to kind of do that a little too. That would be a cool idea for a book too, is just to have the maps and then just show where these different stories took place and so forth. But we'll do it this way, because I don't want to just sit there and type. Talk to us about Frank's connections to the Masons. Frank believes he's a Knights Templar. In fact, I have Frank right here. Here's Frank, little Frank Augustine. Here he is. This is his pajamas. This is where he wears to bed at night. But Frank believes he's a living Templar. I don't even know where to go with that after I say that, because, you know, I'll turn to him and say, you really believe you're a Knights Templar? And he'll say, yes, I am. I'm a knight. And I just usually shake my head and smoke a cigarette then. So, yeah, we'll have to get Frank in, talk about the Masons. He'll talk about the Masons and stuff, and a lot of his connections and everything to the Masons and stuff. Masons was something I was invited or asked to join several times, and I still haven't. I don't think Frank's is active in Arizona as he was probably in Pennsylvania. Hey, Nadine. See that? Okay. But I don't think he's as active out here. I don't know if the chapters are different or if it's just something he kind of burned out in or whatever. But I think he's like a 33rd degree Mason or something like that. He'll talk about it. We'll get him to talk about it. Nadine's message was retracted. Okay. I was anxiously, which I think was Highwayne, waiting sees it too, but it never happened. That's on history. Just give him the big old fat middle finger with both hands. And again, I can't ever say is like they brought us in. They said, "Oh, we'll set up." We did scouting before the first season came out. I scouted for them. I sent them pictures, sent them all kinds of stuff. We worked everything out. We had a kind of a good idea season 2, and then working into season 3. We talked. We got everything set up. They were going to deliver it at New York. They decided to delay it. History fired everybody, brought in all brand new people. Then they went in to present it. Then I was even told in 4 to 5 weeks we should start filming. I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's going to be the middle of summer. We're going to do this in the summer again. That's ridiculous. You guys are going to kill Woody. And they're like, well, it's just what it is. It could be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. We're going to probably give you the word, and then we're going to gear up. We'll do 3 to 4 episodes. Then we'll take a break. Then we'll go back out and do 4 more episodes. And it'll follow and probably debut this time around January or so. I knew all that stuff, man, all those phone conversations and stuff, and then we just waited and nothing happened. That's all history in the production company, and I have no idea. I got ideas of little things that happened along the way, and I just sat there, and the only person that had any communication with history and Go-Go Lucky for the most part, the production company, and A&E was me. I was the only person that had all these, and I would call people, and then I tried to get people to call in to bug them about it. And then they were promising we were going to resume filming in the fall. And so we thought, okay. And that was one of the reasons we didn't do any of the YouTube stuff or videos for a while, because there was a big deal about us not pushing stuff out on social media. So I waited. And then once I realized nothing's really going to happen, I just decided to do what we do today. So this is all just because I just gave up on them. Sorry, misspelled your name. Oh, I didn't even notice. Got my t-shirt order today. Nice shirts. Yes, nice shirts. Oh, by the way, again, we'll throw those out. We have the hats. the Rendezvous and the Dutch Hunter, or the Legend of the Superstition Mountain hats. I haven't decided. I'm letting them sit and looking at them every day, trying to decide whether I do really want to go with this style hats or there's something else. Frank hasn't given me his comment. We have the coffee cups, but they're out of my reach right now. And it's the Dutch Hunter Rendezvous and the Legend of Superstition Mountain cups. So we'll probably have those up before long, won't we?
Yeah.
Available on through the YouTube and stuff, and then we'll try to pick up some and have them out available at the Rendezvous in person for people who just want to buy them that way. And just trying to do it. What we're trying to do with everything is keep the cost so dirt cheap, because we're not trying to make anything on it. We just want to make sure we say thank you to everybody who wants that kind of stuff. So thank you for picking up a shirt, though, and hope you enjoy them. They're good material. Frank doesn't like them, but I wanted shirts that if you go out in the mountains or you do something, they just don't rip apart, fall apart, and fade out instantly. So I wanted something a little tougher and stuff. Okay, got my t-shirt order. I misspelled your name. I would have really enjoyed a second season. I don't know if I would have enjoyed filming it. Hello from Detroit. Hey, Detroit, the Motor City. Damn, I've got a fat finger syndrome. Good evening, Wayne. Good evening. And that'd be Franny. And yep, I'm with you, Jill. Second season would have been okay. Well, we're there. It's like a long cliffhanger. It is. Hey, I'm from Pontiac. Black and gold on the hats. That is. Hey, Brent, and you're welcome about the books. I got the text. I did answer you, I'm sure. Yes, I did. Okay, Brent Ruffner. If you guys ever pick up that little article that was on the Arizona Highways site about lust for gold and some other things concerning the Dutchman stuff. That was Brent, who's with us here. Brent's up in Prescott now, but Brent, really good guy. Just said thank you for some books that I guess I must have referred him on to and stuff for stuff he picked up. Oh, you're in AJ again? Okay, well there you go. I thought you were in Prescott. I'm holding out for the Dutch Hunter Stetson. Huh. Maybe we need to do a couple special ones like that, huh? What would we do? I guess we could put the logo on a hat, huh? I don't know. These hats went out of style. They actually quit making them, my hats, so I have the last of them. You should have Wayne's Superstition World hats. That's an idea of doing the Wayne's World hats with Superstition Mountains. Did they ever find out who stole the cross from the Batcave? Cool, yup. And I got it wrong. Last time I said San Manuel, and then I remembered what town it was from, because all I was told was it was a Mexican, which meant a Hispanic gentleman from, it wasn't San Mateo? Maybe it was San Mateo. Somewhere down in southern Arizona, and someone told me, and that was what I was told. So I don't know if he was somehow connected in anything else, or just happened to watch the show and go out there, if he was interested in the area or something like that. That's what I was told. So, and I think I do it like in the first or second episode of what we're talking about. But I do mention the town where he's from and stuff is down there, because I was like, it'd be cool to get a picture with a guy with it, you know. Who cares, you know? It's kind of like the stone maps. Once you get a picture of something, what do you need to do to have the physical thing? I don't know. I'm not needy like that. I say that, and then I have an object. So go figure that one, huh? So I'd rather have my object though than that. You know that? Than that cross. I'd rather have the object. The object's cooler. Okay. Are you doing any more talks at Superstition Museum anytime soon? No, they got Jesse this year, and they got Teton Ken again, and then they have a bunch of people talking about shit that has nothing to do with the Superstition Mountains. So I guess me bringing in 800 to 1,000 people a couple times didn't really matter. I don't know if they always look to change things up. Obviously not, because the railroad guy and Teton Ken's there. They may not have been happy about some things, because I think the museum needs to be more focused on the Superstition Mountains and Dutch hunting and the Lost Dutchman mine, and less about a lot of crap that has nothing to do with it. And because I particularly have that view, and I usually am a member of the Historical Society, so I think I have a reason to say so. And when talking to other members, I think that's a good thing, is to say we need to get our ducks in a row and keep the focus on this, because we're misleading people. And I think maybe they don't appreciate that. I don't know. I thought I got along with Dave and them, and they always seem to be cool with me. So I don't know if we're cool or not cool. All I know is they scheduled everything out. Jesse's in there, which is good. But I was hoping for another invite, put another program together, and I figured if Jesse and me Teton Ken does his thing, and if they got someone, it would be cool. It'd be cool if they do 10, 12 lectures, and 4 or 5 of them had to do with the superstitions. But a lot of the stuff has nothing to do with technically the mountains, and you would think they have enough people they could do it. But there you go. So yes, I'm not on unless somebody cancels. If they get a bunch of cancels and they got nobody, that's kind of what happened last time. They were like, the very end, they were looking to fill holes, and they picked me up. So that shows you what they think of me. In fact, they've never asked for anything, never did anything. I mean, we brought them tons of revenue through the TV series and stuff. I've never really gotten much of anything out of them, as far as even a thank you. Shoes was crazy about it. Hey, you know what? We'll put it in a corner here, and we'll put all your stuff up and all. So if there ever is any display or anything to do with TV shows and movies and stuff, it won't be like the barn thing with a bunch of old B westerns and stuff that none of us have ever seen and people we've never heard of. Shoes talked about taking, the stuff that's more current and some of the older stuff, Lust for Gold and stuff like that, but build a corner for it. And I told him I would give him probably my hat, my shirt, and a bunch of stuff, and they could put it on a dummy, because whether it's on me or it's there, it's in a dummy. But some stuff from the show and stuff. But let that stuff sit there. I don't have a problem with it. Can't take it with you, so might as well send it down there. So hopefully nobody steals the hat. That would really suck. Who is this guy who took the cross? What gives him the right? Well, I guess he decided he had a right to own a cross. A lot of people are like that. There's supposedly some bell someone owns. There's a bunch of stuff people take out of the mountains. And what am I to say? That's the Forestry Service, and that's the federal government, and everybody else's problem, not mine. I'm not the police on that. So whoever has what, and they do that, and whatever, Once you find out something's gone, there's not much you can do to come back and get it back. There's a bunch of stuff that's missing out of the mountains that people... It's one of the reasons we can be very vague or twist the tail a bit on certain stories, because of people that do that. There are a number of people like that. Then there's the people out there that fake crap. So you got both sides of it. Howdy, Wayne. Missouri Ozarks. Missouri. Do you believe the story, I think, Holmes, when Waltz tells Julia and Riney that they can take him in a wagon to the boardhouse and he will point out the trail? Yeah, well, that wasn't a Holmes tale. That was a Julia Thomas tale. That was Julian Reinhardt told Jim Bark that. But, Dick Holmes, I don't think he even touched upon... I don't think he mentioned anything other than Julia ran out in the street, and then later he mentioned offhand that Reinhardt might have been drunk somewhere in the area. Yeah, his story kind of omits the most important people. Funny how that works. But, no, that was... Waltz was not getting well enough. They were supposed to make a trip, and he felt he could get strong enough they could get a wagon, and if he was well enough they could take the trip, which would take quite a while still. They might have to stay the night to take the trip all the way out there and back. But he felt like he could take them out and at least get them oriented, look at the mountains and tell them, okay, this is the way I would take you, and you can go up through there, and then he could kind of give them some kind of direction. I think a lot of things were concerned him is about Julia's ability to navigate in the mountains, which Bob Garman had some great stories about. She didn't do well. And so the problem is he was probably looking at it as, I'm in my 80s and she's never done anything. And you can say they were a tough lot. It was, life was tough for them. They were technically still pioneers to a large degree. So it wasn't like they were super soft people. But I think where he was taking them and what he was looking to do was something they were so alien to him. So I think it was an idea he just didn't get healthy enough. And the other problem was if he didn't get healthy enough, once summer came, they certainly weren't taking the wagon up there and through the summer. And then by the time it cools down here, it's usually late September. So he died in October, so they probably didn't have very much time before he died. And we don't know how sick he was in October before he died, if it came real sudden or if they had an opportunity. So you got to figure from probably May or June all the way to September, they just didn't have the opportunity. And so before that, it was February when they got him, so he only had March, April, May, possibly to even make a trip out there. So it depended a lot of his health, and we don't have a lot of detail on that because Jim Bark, Sim Zealy didn't talk to Reinhardt, but Jim Bark, when he talked to him, he's trying to get location of the mine, what Waltz told them about the mine and stuff. Nobody was thinking about the actual like history makeup. We'd all love to hear about a lot of Waltz's stories between coming to California and Los Angeles and coming up and in Prescott, and as he worked his way out to Phoenix, because he's also, you got to remember, one of the early pioneers into Arizona, and he's also one of the early pioneers and helped settle the town of Phoenix. So he's in Phoenix at 68, and they first came in and decided to settle it in 67. So he is a pioneer of so many different things, and the main thing they wanted to get out of him was, where's this mine? How can we find it? So we lost a lot of history, a lot of information. That's just what it is. What's the temperature out there in November? November's pretty good. It's still going to be pretty warm, up in the 90s, probably still high 80s. It's still pretty dry and pretty bad. Most people, most of the time, everything really starts to kick off. Rendezvous will be at the beginning of November. It'll, like I said, it'll still be pretty warm, but it won't be terrible. It'll be tolerable, especially in the shade. A lot of snakes still. Then around late December, it starts to really cool off. January, February are cold, and then March going into April are two of the best months because the weather's pretty decent. So it depends how tolerant you are. If you're heat tolerant, which I don't know where you're coming from and what you are, but if you're heat tolerant, it's not too bad in late November around Thanksgiving. But it was pretty warm when we went in the one Thanksgiving, wasn't it? It was pretty warm that day when we went out to Blacktop.
Me and you?
Yeah.
Might have started out warm, but it was freezing by the end of the night.
Yeah, but it was warm during the day. What I'm saying is when you're out during the day, though, it's pretty warm at times. It warms up, so... that's the temperature. Gil decided to retract what he had to say, and then he put it out again. Invites you to the High Sierras. If you care for an outing for the Yellow Nuggets. Well, Gil, I could take you. I don't even know where that is, the High Sierras. So, it's not in Maine. Franny said Maine, but I don't think the High Sierras are in Maine. The last one cuts off. That's weird. Maybe it does. So the board house would be southern side. Do you think Waltz came in from the north by the Salt River also? It could have been. The problem we have is there's two distinct stories. Dick Holmes' story and the story of Julia Thomas and Reinhardt Petrasch. We know Julia Thomas was friends with Waltz. We know Reinhardt associated with Waltz. He's buried next to Reinhardt's brother. He was taken to Julia's house, not a store in town. He was taken to Julia's house. He died at Julia's. He was buried next to Reinhardt's brother. Reinhardt made the coffin. He was rescued out of the tree by Reinhardt, not Dick Holmes, as Dick Holmes told early on. We know they all spoke German. It was just that kind of all falls in, makes sense. And then you have the Dick Holmes story, which is very, very different. They don't actually parallel very well. People try to act like they do. It sounds like a guy was half listening, and then what he missed out, he filled in some blanks for. I tend not to listen. The Holmes story always wants to start on the north end of the Superstitions. It always does. It never has done anything but more of the north central coming into the western Superstitions. The Julia Thomas and Reinhardt Petrasch story sounds a bit like they were trying to figure out exactly what he was telling them, how he came in and out of the mountains. If we're to believe Mrs. Cavanis, that Waltz had stopped by there, the Indians would come out. That's the board house at the southern end. Frank always believes the board house is the goat farm or the milk farm elsewhere. There was also one down by the Quarter Circle U that Matt Cavanis built down the road. But it's like 70-80% of the stories point to something to the south. Then we have people say they thought they spotted Waltz here and there all through the mountains, and those you can take with a grain of salt as well. So I always tend to look at the Julia Thomas Reinhardt Petrasch stuff because they spoke to him. It kind of makes sense. They spoke German. He was very comfortable in speaking in that dialect, and there's just so many problems with the Holmes story. And where the Holmes story lines up with Julia Thomas and Reinhardt Petrasch's story, it kind of still has strange differences that don't make sense. And then the Dick Holmes story, which pretty much was making, they made the Arizona Cowboys book by 1900, 1903. It kept evolving and changing. So the Dick Holmes version of Waltz, he would give interviews and tell his story, and then he'd say later, say, this is the true story. Now this is the true story. Herman did it a bit himself later, but the Dick Holmes story, and then there's the, I think I even touch upon the fact that it's like Dick Holmes was by himself. Oh, he was with Gideon Roberts. Ida Holmes says she was with her husband Dick Holmes, and they were at the house, and Julia woke him up. And their own family told like 20 different versions. So I have a problem with that. When it comes to that, if there's nothing about it that's that different, I'm not going to care. Neither Dick Holmes or Brownie Holmes found the lost Dutchman, so obviously they didn't have enough information to do so. So that kind of is the moot point there, isn't it? But the board house should be an important clue. A few years ago, I was in Nevada, Arizona in early June. It was hot but dry. Well, that's Arizona. It's pretty much about 8 months a year. I'm in Maine in November. It snows here. It can snow here in November in Flagstaff. It can get very cold. So you only need to drive 2 miles from the Superstitions and it get very cold. Even on the Superstitions, I've been in a blizzard in the Superstitions. So it can get really bad there in the winter if we have precipitation. Well, I thought Holmes put inaccuracy in the story. Anyone got close. But why? Why would you tell the story? Why not just not tell the story? That's like one of my problems is when people say, well, they tried to purposely mislead people. Well, if you didn't talk to everybody about it, you don't have to mislead anybody. But yeah, you want to go, I know all about it. I got the clues. I'm going to find it. Well, you didn't. So I had a lot of problems, and it's just he didn't seem to be in the right places, the right times where he should have been and stuff. We know Reinhard Petrasch was in Phoenix recently. I uncovered some stuff that was very cool that had, I was looking at where Herman and Reinhardt, because they traveled together for a number of years in the 1890s in and around through Maricopa County and Yavapai and Gila County. So it was very cool to see that they stuck together at all. And, they weren't always in the mountains. They would go in the mountains and then they'd go do something else. They prospected, listed under a number of registers as miners, and occasionally with Gideon, their father. So it's interesting to see that stuff. Dick Holmes mainly was a grocer. His dad did pretty well in life, and I think tried to get him a good start. It's just funny because, we don't know who Dick Holmes was or what he really was like. What we have is the stories after the fact, and then a lot of things he said to the newspapers and stuff. So he could have been a pretty good guy and stuff, but he just liked to be, he was a good storyteller, and he told great stories, and he had a great way of talking and great narrative, but he wasn't wholly accurate. But there was no harm, no foul. I don't think he was thinking 100 years later, everybody's going to be listening and pitying and dying over what I'm saying. So I think that could be a lot of it too, so forth. Okay, never, because he was stuck in the search. I don't know, is that stuck in the search? Louisiana this time of year had 2 weeks of winter. Would know the real deal on Holmes. Yeah, and I don't know if we'll ever know. I always have been dismissive of the story because the inaccuracies concerning it. There was a Dick Holmes, and I think he was the third, but he was referred to as junior. His dad was referred to as senior, but he was Dick Holmes the third, Richard Holmes the third. It's just you start from the beginning of like, oh, we were going by the store. I was by myself. I came out of the house, ran across the street to Julia's. Oh, Ida came out with me. Oh, we sent Julia down to fetch the doctor. Why wouldn't you, as a man, say, okay, I'll run get the doctor. Why don't you women sit with Waltz and watch him? You're his friend. You're taking care of him. I'll fetch the doctor. The whole story just has all kinds of nothing logical about it. Then there's the whole Gideon Robert, and then they're going by the store. Then it wasn't even the store. Then it was a back room attached to the store. And just each time it was like, holy crap. So by the time Brownie starts telling the story, there's about 20 variations. And there's even interviews of Ida Holmes talking how she was there, what Waltz said, and everything he went through. And you're like, why are we going here? Because supposedly you were not even up. You weren't even in the street. You were at home. Well, it gets very confusing. I have a big feeling that Jacob Waltz got very, very sick and then just passed away. And there was no deathbed confession. There was just a lot of talk that he talked with Reinhardt and them. And I have a feeling Nick Holmes talked to Julia, and he also talked to Albert Schaefer. And those are two people I know he talked to. And I think he got a lot of information out of them and some other people. Plus, you got to remember, the original story is some Mexican named Ramirez and fucking Holmes. Sorry, I dropped an F-bomb. But it was Holmes and Ramirez. It wasn't even Holmes and Roberts or Holmes by himself or Ida Holmes. There's the whole other one of Ramirez and him and Ramirez and... Oh, God, let's not even go there. That's the Milton Rose version. All your time in the supers, have you ever experienced or seen things you can't explain? All the time. There's always weird stuff. Sometimes I tell them, I try to put them in the videos and spread them out. The stickman thing is probably one of the biggest ones I can always talk about, is I'll just never... I know what I saw, and I don't think it was really a person, but it looked like a person, and then it was gone, and it couldn't have just disappeared. It was there. It was physically something manifested there. It looked like a tree, branches standing with rags on it, and then it like went into the ground and it was gone. That was kind of unusual. There's odd things. There's things that happen. So, and it's sometimes hard to explain, but you don't know when you're tired. Sometimes things are almost optical illusions. There's places that I've went. You know, it's really strange because I've been in the mountains sometimes, and I've been to a very familiar place, and then I go back there after not being there for a few years, and it looks very different. And I never quite adjust to be like, well, how come it just doesn't seem the same? Yet I realize there's nothing about it that could have changed that much, but my perception of it has changed. And I don't know what causes that. There's a number of places I've been that's happened, and that I thought was so much cooler or so much more interesting, and then suddenly one time I go and just I realize there's nothing about it that's interesting at all. So there is unusual, odd things, and I try to tell those stories occasionally. I'm not a superstitious person. I am not someone into like thinking things are paranormal in this, but then again, a lot of that, me and Clay Worst had a long discussion about that once you've been in the mountains a number of times on your own by yourself, and you get deep in the mountains, you scare yourself out of being scared. So you literally are just done with it, and you just realize, okay, I'm good. And that changes your perception of a lot of stuff in a lot of ways. You hear things, and you just start rationalizing and working it out and being analytical about it, rather than getting spooked or kind of going like, well, what was that? And we have things occasionally happen. We had that boulder that moved or whatever. We heard that boulder. It sounded like someone threw a boulder at us. We never didn't see anything. We heard it, and we reacted to it, and it couldn't have been that far from us, but we couldn't figure it out. And that'll be in the episodes coming up. But it was a very odd thing. So there are things that happen that have no explanation, but just because it has no explanation doesn't mean there isn't a rational explanation. It's just you don't have anything in the immediate moment for it. Okay, I talked way too long about that. May, November, it snows. As Holmes, I went to Florida last winter, spent a winter in Florida because he was stuck in the search. Find Louisiana. Oh, I was further along than I thought. Would you know the real deal on Holmes? Would Clay know the real deal? No, because Clay's too close to the Holmes thing. He was too close to Brownie. He might at this point have worked a lot of stuff out, but he was very good friends with Brownie, and because of that closeness, sometimes it makes it difficult for people to see through things or see into things differently. I'd like to think Clay would. I don't know if he would say he would. We've had some very interesting discussions on that kind of topic, and those I consider somewhat private, because sometimes I think he's sharing what he is thinking in the moment, and maybe not what he might believe tomorrow. So those are just kind of personal discussions, because I'm always curious, do people's minds change at times, or do they have their doubts? And all your time I can explain, lots of laugh. Just because we encounter an unusual event doesn't necessarily mean it's something paranormal or even weird. It's sometimes just what we think is weird or unusual turns out to just be the norm. Any stories about the Silver Spear Cabin? I don't know what you're even talking about. Silver Spur? I don't know. My cursor's on it. Silver Spur Cabin. Doesn't even ring a bell. Because I know there's a lot of cabins out there, but I don't know that one. So I don't know if that's a Superstition Mountain one or not. Shirt makes me look really fat. which Frank's going to say it's because you are fat. I'm not going to drop any more F-bombs, but you know what that look was about. Okay. So, but yeah, so when it comes to Clay, you know, I know he has his friendships and what he believes in. We have some really interesting discussions. There's a time after talking, and sometimes we'll do something and we'll film or record or, you know, story because I want to know about something specific. And then once everything's said and done, I'll say, hey, can I ask you about this stuff? And then make sure everything's turned off. And we have those discussions. And those sometimes are the best discussions because we're starting from scratch and kind of what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts when you were doing this? I like those kind of questions is when you guys were out doing this, what were your thoughts afterwards? Why didn't you revisit it? Because I like to hear how they processed and why those things happened and so forth. Okay, let's see. Hey Wayne, do you have a time frame for taking a trip in the field? Weather's too hot, I understand. Yeah, I'm going to be going, but it's just weather's kind of hot and it's a time-based thing. There's a number of things we're working on, but here soon the truck's AC is fixed, and then when the weather's good and stuff, I'm going to want to start kind of getting out and pushing stuff. Frank, there's a couple trips Frank wants to take that are longer. I don't know if he wants to take. I want to take him. So I told him to get his legs together because they'll take us a better part of a day and he's going to have to get his endurance up for him. But they're mainly trips I want him to go on, so at least some things he's interested, he can actually physically once in his life put his eyes on them. Because that happens a lot to a lot of people is they never get to put their eyes physically on something. Seeing something in person and being there, breathing that air there, can give you a lot more insight than all the research and everything else you do. So there's a couple spots I want us to go out to. We just talked about that recently. There's a long trip I want to make with Frank, and hopefully we'll get to do it. So AC's a necessity. Yes, it is. Well, I didn't think so till 1998, 99 is when I first started using AC. I never used it. It's weird, isn't it? That's weird. But I always took the AC out of cars because I thought the horsepower. Plus, it was easier to work on the engine. And then I got my Eddie Bauer Bronco. I had AC in my '83 Bronco, but it was like a swamp cooler, just spit water out of it. So it was weird, but it didn't really cool you down; it just blew damp water on you. The Eddie Bauer had good AC, but then the reason that got traded in was basically I'd put the kids in the back seat and then they would come out beat red all the time because there was no AC in the rear of the Bronco. The rear of the Bronco was like an oven. Up front it wasn't too bad. It was pretty tolerable, but in the back, so it was good work vehicle. It was good for being on the trails, good for nice weather. During the summertime, it really sucked. So that was what I got out of that, and then got into the Lariat and then the King Ranch after that. So there, you need more volume, little on the weak side. That's the mic's over here. Yeah, one of the problems we're having, and maybe I can't move it. Well, he's got it set up. One of the problems is we dim the room. And then I got to go look over and all the script that's over here on my right, which is smaller. So I have to go to my right to read the script, but the mic is over on my left. So I'm actually leaving the microphone and not talking like right now directly into the microphone, which probably sounds really good. And then, of course, I'm over here talking because I'm trying to just keep engaged as we go. Trevor's trying to work the volume, obviously. Hello, no description available. All the frogs came out at the soups last night. Yeah, that's because of the rain and the damp weather. Where do they go when the sun comes out? They go back in the mud and the dirt and they hide and they die. Is there any particular place... You like that, huh? Is there any particular place that you have not been to in the Superstition Mountains? Yeah, there's places I haven't been to. But most of the known places I've been to, I mean, there's no way. I did not cover the amount of ground that Tom Collenborn did, or even probably Jack Carlson, the hiking guide and stuff. The guy with Mary Stewart that wrote the hiking guide. Or Elizabeth Stewart. Sorry, Mary Stewart. She wrote books on King Arthur. Anyhow, no, one of the things... I'm trying to think of any place that I've never been that I'd really want to go to. Because generally, as a rule, as soon as I found out about something or a history about a particular place or something, I was all in to go, and I would go by myself. So I spent so much time, and I would just take various trips down different canyons and trailheads. And I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's a few places, and if it came to mind, there's got to be some places that I've not been down. There's a place where there's supposed to be a stone circle down on the southern side of Peralta, somewhere in No Name Canyon, somewhere down in there. And no one's been able to tell me about where it is. But I thought Greg Davis and Jack Carlson and I believe Steve Bowser went back in there. I don't know if Steve watches these. But I thought they were heading that direction. But I think Steve said he didn't know anything about it. Because I wanted to go check that out. It's a ruin. Steve's into ruins too, so we both are into that. But I don't know. I think the only person I talked to Howard Hornick about it once. I was never there, but I don't know if Howard gave me instructions or just blew me off on it. But I wanted to know where that was. I've never been there, but I don't know if it even exists. So I saw it on a map down at the Quarter Circle U once, something, or in a book or in a journal or something, and saw something about it in the canyons it was, and I was like, hey, that'd be cool hike. Man, I've never been to the top of Iron Mountain. There you go. Never hiked up to the top of Iron Mountain. There's that. God, I've just been so many places. It's been so many years. And when you take how many years it's been, going close to around 50, there's a lot of places you've been. It's a lot of trips. Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm doing the ums. The miners in Goldfield that is underwater, the Mammoth. If I remember right, it was never completely mined out, but with all of today's technology. Well, there's several problems with that. One is they hit a river down in there. So they'd have to figure out, not only you got to keep trying to drain it, but you got to figure out a way to stop it down in there where that river is. Teton Ken said he had a method of how to fix all that, and him and Shoes, he never told Shoes, so I don't know what's up with that. But anyways, a lot of them are underwater because they fill up with water during time, and there's underground streams and so forth that fill them up. Mammoth flooded because of an underground water system that flooded it, and I believe they drained out a lot of it. I don't know where it is now. We've been getting a lot of rain. But the Silver King's pretty much flooded again too. One of the problems is once they flood, a lot of the poisonous gases and stuff come from the woods rotting in there. It takes a while. You got to dry them things out and get everything dried out and make sure they're stable and go through all that. There's a lot of work involved. So whether or not the price of gold or what's down in there, and I won't talk about the mining operations of the Schuses and Feldmans in that vicinity of their claims in that area, because that's their own personal things and what they're doing. But yes, they have the Mammoth, the Black Queen, and certain things like that. Clay has the Wasp. There are people that have mining operations, and they're doing what they're doing. But yes, I know the big problem with the Mammoth is most of that flooding that was from an underground river. So they could get to it, but they'd have to drain out the whole mine and pump it out and keep it pumped out and get all that water to stop coming in. You think Tex Barkley's two cowboys killed Ruth? No. Pure and simple. I think Ruth died from natural causes. Where are you, man? Adolf Ruth, medical examiner. There was no murder investigation. Coroner, medical examiner, found he died of natural causes. Basically said it was unknown because they don't know if it was a heart attack, a stroke, heat exhaustion, dehydration, but he was not shot. That was Odd Halseth made up the big thing, sent it to Herdlicka, did everything to make a big story out of it, convinced Erwin Ruth about it and all. And they just went out, and when they finally found the body, he was sent home and buried. There was no other follow-up on it. If there is not a homicide or any reason that the medical examiner finds anything suspicious for that, there'd be no investigation, which is why there's people out there who've lied, and I've talked about this. They lied, said, there were all these files, and they threw them out from the unknown case. Well, one, they never throw out cold case files. They never throw them out. They'll be there forever. Frank knows this. Jack Sanfelice, Tom Collenborn knew this. If you wanted to get Tom mad, tell him Adolf Ruth was murdered. He'd get mad because it wasn't true. All of the stuff, that's a lot of stuff about that, and a lot of things people put is pure speculative. Medical examiner says it was unknown on the certificate. You can get the results and stuff, but there were no files. There was nothing on the murder investigation. There was no murder investigation. There were no people brought in for questioning. There was people brought in for questioning when he disappeared to try to find out where he was. As far as his murder, there was nothing. There was no investigation because the medical examiner did not list it as a homicide. And there was never any evidence. It was all pure gossip. So there you go. But it's a great story and it sells stuff, you know. So, topographical maps show a massive area, so I'd have to wonder if there are like known places of interest. Yeah, there's a lot of known places of interest. Yeah, it's a massive area. And you know what's crazy about the massive area? It's so difficult to traverse, and once you get off the trail, you can be 20 feet from the trail and can't figure out where the trail is and get lost trying to find your way back to the trail. It's a difficult area off trail to traverse. It's just not only just the bushes and stuff, the cat claw will eat you alive, but it's just rough. And then you got the areas that have shale and just everything's loose and slippery, and it's just a rough place. It is rough, and if you don't know once you know the area, know the trail system, know how to shortcut and do certain things, it's not as bad. But if you don't know, you could get yourself killed back in there very, very easily. Excellent connection, it's telling me. Good. One of the episodes it showed a stone medicine wheel. Was that real? It was there. I was there. The one thing I would say is the big thing of doubters said was there was no dirt buildup by the rocks. It was on a slant angled piece of rock, raised about 20 feet from the little basin it was in. So there wouldn't be. Every time the wind blew, every time it rained, it was going to wash everything off that rock. People destroyed it, and then people rebuilt it, and people destroyed it again, and people rebuilt it. Then the last time, someone took every rock in the area that was big as your fist and removed it from the area completely. There are other wheels. I will not say where all of them are, but me and Jesse were talking a discussion one night at the Rendezvous about one, and then I was hesitant because a lot of people got interested, and I realized I hate to kind of push where other places are. There are other places in that area that have not necessarily medicine wheels, but they're wheels, and some of them are only 4 spokes, some of them just have a center circle, and some of them are very, very old. And I will just say I know where these places are. And if you're a person that's who's a police of power and all that, okay, great, whatever. But people just don't need to be destroying them for whatever reason or something. Someone built them. Someone put a bill. You don't know who it was. Some patchy kid was bored, built a stone circle, was running around it in circles, playing tag or something. The ring around the rosy, and now we make a big deal out of it. But who cares? The point is, why destroy anything that's there? That's always disappointing. So, yeah, the one that was there is gone. So there's not much more we can do about it. And I wasn't happy that we kind of went into that thing because I really wanted to push that anything indigenous and any type of artifacts or anything, one, let's portray it for real, but 2, let's not do anything that's going to create a problem where someone could cause some harm, mar it, or destroy anything like that. And that was where I kind of got edgy. If you watch in the beginning of that episode, that part, I'm in the middle of the group. At the end, I'm on the end because I got a little ticked off about how they were trying to represent things, and they were trying to be goofy about it, and I thought that was stupid too. Hey Wayne, hey David, hey Wayne. Everybody goes, hey Wayne, hey Wayne, hey BJ, hey, giving out a shout from Louisville, Kentucky. I love your videos. Thanks, man. You went to Louisville, didn't you? You were in Louisville, yeah. You were in Louisville. Where else did you go? You went out somewhere. Did you go to Nashville or Memphis? Nashville. Okay.
Been to Louisville twice.
Been to Louisville twice. Yeah, you went to Kentucky Derby.
Twice.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not to Kentucky Derby, to Churchill Downs.
Yeah, Churchill Downs. Okay.
Kentucky Derby
There.
had already happened.
Okay. Any stories on the Silver Spur Cabin east of the mountain by West Pinto? I'm not as familiar with that. I'll have to look it up and remind myself. I know the Pinto area pretty well and Haunted Canyon and all that. I've taken Trevor down in there a few times, haven't I? Down Haunted Canyon. Going across Pinto, going out through Superior and up through Pinto Creek, across the bridge, and then we go down the trails and go down into Haunted and going out towards Tooney Cabin. Anyways, I'll have to refresh my mind on that and stuff. Just sometimes there's way too much stuff, and I got to get one cabin because I just mentioned one cabin and another cabin, Tony Cabin down in there. People can be dumb about destroying stuff. Yes, they are. The more hidden they are, the better. Well, it would be just nice if people would just see stuff, take pictures, leave stuff be. There was a time when, you could pick up arrowheads and stuff, and you would take people out who visited, and they could pick up arrowheads and take them home, and it was really cool. And then they just got out of hand where people got them, and then they tried to sell them. Then they found they could just manufacture them, but then people destroyed them. I don't know how many houses in my line of work I've been around where, there's manos and matates just sitting there in the driveways, and they're actually real things, and they were pulled out of the desert, and someone sold it to someone, and then they just sit there, and they're cracked or beaten, and they're just left in their front yard like, and it's like, I always thought it was when I was a kid, we left stuff alone. We'd go out towards Wickenburg, out heading towards Constellation Camp, and there would be the remains of some of these old miners' cabins, and they'd have lanterns, and there would be stuff in them. But we just left everything because we always thought it was cool, and we always thought, it's somebody else's stuff. It was junk to us. So we always thought that kind of stuff, you just left it be. And then people started taking his stuff, and they started taking the wood to build bars, and then they started burning stuff down. And so a lot of stuff I remember as a kid in my teen years that we would go out, because we used to go out Wickenburg, and we used to shoot jackrabbits out there. We were sadists as children, but we would go out there and shoot the jack. Some of the ranchers, some of the guys that were out in there didn't mind it because they were not big on them, and they didn't care if we went out there. We'd go out there with 22s and sight in the 22s. But we would go out and we'd run into all these things, and we always thought it was cool. So we always checked stuff out. But I think we left everything. I don't have anything. Most anything I got from that type of era stuff was from someone else who was a cowhand or someone like that, worked on a ranch, that had found stuff, and then it got passed on to me. I necessarily didn't take things. I always left things because I was always kind of, you didn't know. It was somebody else's stuff. Someone else might own this piece of property. They might be grazing this land, and it's kind of part of their property, so you don't want to be caught with their stuff. So I remember there was one place down through there off the Hacienda we ran into once. We went in, it was a little wooden shack of some sort. We went in, and there was a bunk there, and there was some bedding and stuff, and you could tell nobody had been there forever, and it was full of food and stuff, and there was even some change and some stuff laying around and stuff, and I don't think anybody had been there in a year or two. Maybe the guy just never went back, but we didn't touch a thing. And this is probably around, I'm trying to think when I went in there, it's probably in the 90s, but the point being again was I just didn't see any rhyme or reason. I think I went in there with Chris Goby. I think Chris Goby and I went back there and did that. But anyways, to me it was just kind of like, I don't want to mess with someone else's stuff. There's no reason to take their crap. That's just bad juju for that. You don't want them taking yours, so there. One of the episodes about the Stillman. Okay, we did that. Giving a shout out Louisville, Kentucky. We were there. Spur Cabin. I'm going to work on that. Remember Spur Cabin, Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
Pinto Creek. Okay, the more hidden they are, the better. I'm 59. I get it. When I had a kid, we didn't take. Yeah. It's just a weird thing. That today is a much weirder thing. People try to act like antiques and everything's so valuable and stuff. Do you explore other areas other than the Soups? What are your favorite places to explore that have an interesting history like the Soups? I like going up on the Weaver Mountains, up around Yarnell and stuff, in that area. Weaver Mountains, Weaver's Needle. But I go up in that way area around Congress and stuff. I loved the Mogollon Rim as a kid. I spent a lot of time up on the rim and up in the area along the rim. Up in the rim country, not in Payson or not in Heber or something, but up on the rim. So a lot there. Trying to think of some other. I liked the area all between Lake Pleasant and Prescott, the Senator Highway. I spent a lot of time in the little back roads up through there, exploring old mines and going down washes. Because you go down, see, we go back in those places and go way back, and then we'd find all these old mines and prospect sites that nobody had been into in 50, 60 years, and nobody was going back to it. We'd find those spots. And we weren't really looking for gold and stuff. We were just looking for cool adventure and stuff and think it was cool. And to us, I mean, we weren't even taking pictures. We would think it was super cool to find this thing, take a flashlight, go inside. Oh, wow, look, there's, the candlesticks in the wall and stuff. We just thought it was really super cool to walk through that like a living museum. I don't think, and then we just drink beer and stuff, and smoke stuff. So I think it was a very entertaining, it was very educational to some degree. We run into a lot of ruins too, a lot of pit houses and a lot of ruins and stuff. And again, most everything I have was from private property, and part of it was from property we owned. So the grinding stones, a lot of stuff I have, I don't even know where the grinding stone is anymore. Huh. Oh, there it is. It's up there. Hand it to me. But anyways, one of the grinding stones we got was out of when we had our pool dug. Not here, not in this place, but when I was a kid. So, and we had the land down in Maricopa and different things. So, but this is a nice grinding stone. This was pulled out. They broke the other part digging out the pool. So it was completely shattered, but they had the stone. And it was actually somewhat together when they dug it out. So basically the backhoe destroyed... what to grind, but the grinding stone survived. And then I've always kept this as a paperweight, and that was the main reason. It's very cool, but I'm allowed to keep it because it's private property. So, and we were allowed to keep what came off of our own property. So there you go. Okay, so other places than the soups, but yeah, does Bob have AC in the Mammoth? No. Wife just got back from there and said it was hot as hell in there. Oh no, that's not the Mammoth. You were in Goldfield. That's not the Mammoth. The Mammoth is over the hill and in a big pit down by the OK Corral area. They don't do tours, or people don't get to go in there. It is very hot right now. It would be very hot and humid in the mines. This is the time of year of sweat, and some mines sometimes always stay very clammy. They don't ever get cool. It'll be 30 degrees outside, and the mine inside you'll be sweating buckets because they're very humid and so forth. And I would guarantee you the Mammoth would be.
Mammoth Saloon, it says.
Oh, the Mammoth Saloon. Bob leases it to Cowboy Dan. So you talk to Cowboy Dan. He doesn't have AC. I believe he has swamp coolers, doesn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. And the problem is, if you're not from here, is swamp coolers suck really bad in the summer because it's just basically water running through this filter and the air going through it. And when I was a kid, there was some of us who had air conditioning. People loved to come to our house with the air conditioning because the people had swamp coolers when the humidity was up 50, 60, 70%. They were absolutely useless. You were just basically in a hot, freaking damp house. So it could be swamp coolers, and that's why it's not working very well. I'm still trying to think of other places I explored. Do you think some of the Ted DeGrazia paintings are in the soups? Anyone found anything from him? Mammoth Saloon, I see that. Okay, was the saloon. Yeah, so that's Cowboy Dan, but I would think it's swamp coolers set up on it. I'll ask Shoes about it. But I don't think they would put AC in because they have the doors, and the doors all have screens in them, so it would be open air. You're trying to air condition the streets of Goldfield with it. So I'm pretty sure they're swamp coolers. I'm trying to think of other areas in Arizona I really, really like. I explored a lot, man. Like I said, I wanted to do the Devil's Highway with Shoes. Take a run down there, and we've made some runs down to Tucson. I just liked exploring, and there was favorite places. Superstitions was a favorite place. The Mogollon Rim was a favorite place. The Weaver Mountains was a favorite place, and then of course definitely out by Wickenburg and along the Hacienda was one of those favorite places because they were just so easy to get to. Senator Highway was a favorite place to run up and down. And I was always kind of a desert rat, so I didn't need the north pines and stuff. I didn't need to care about the cool weather and stuff. I liked that, the stuff that was down here. Going south, I'm trying to think of, you know, I pretty much went anywhere, everywhere, and any place I thought was cool. There was a few, you know, wilderness areas I went into, other areas, but and then there was for a number of years definitely going out 4-wheel driving and checking out ghost towns like Gillette and, you know, just different random ghost towns. Just 4-wheel drive out to them and check them out, look them over and stuff. Again, never took anything from those. Always just like hanging out and going checking them out. So, what do you think of Travis Walton, Fire in the Sky? Lots of laugh. He needs to be more careful with some of the people he meets and he trusts and tries to work with. But currently, but I don't know. I never thought much about it at all because I heard that supposedly it's true. Oh no, it's not true. Hey, it's true. Oh no, we made it up. It was a hoax. Okay, now it's true again. So that's what I've heard. I don't know. Never met the guy. I know they keep trying to recirculate it and bring it up and stuff and whatever. And there's been a number of exposés on it, whether they hoaxed it or it really happened, or I don't know. You know, it's kind of one of those weird things. All these years, almost 50 years in the superstitions, I never saw crap in the sky that I couldn't explain. So, you know, but people tell me it's a hotbed of UFO activity. So is Sedona. And just today I had a conversation with someone. I pointed out, you know, I grew up, Sedona was a place where everybody went and drank beer, hit Slide Rock, and smoked pot. Now it's the New Age center of crystals and vortexes and portals and all kinds of crap. And I'm just like, none of that stuff existed when I was a kid when we went up there. So it just completely became this other place. And they act like, oh, it's been like this forever. No, it hasn't. No, we used to go up there and everybody just partied and hung out. Just had a good time. So, yeah, everything changes. And it's funny how they completely alter the history. Great for them. Sedona makes a lot of money off the whole thing. And it's, you know, for whatever reason and all. I don't think there's any politics involved. It's just, you know, comes down to that thing where people just feel the need to get into something metaphysical or whatever. I'll sell you a piece of quartz for $5,000. That'll heal you. Yeah. But it's weird. I can't believe what they charge up there for stuff. I mean, there's stuff you can find in rock piles at old mine sites and stuff, and they want you got to take out a second mortgage to get that stuff off of them up there. So it's kind of strange. There's some projects we want to work on concerning some of that stuff and all. But no. Let's see. So I don't think much of it. I saw the movie. The killer heat in the Mammoth Saloon is historically accurate, though. Well, now you know why I'm not hanging out with Shoes at the Mammoth. I'll go to Shoes' house where there's air conditioning and sit on the couch. Okay. The killer heat in the Mammoth. Okay, there it is. Do you believe the Lost Dutchman is real and does it still exist? Yes. You should read what we talked about earlier. It still exists. It's still really cool. And there's Brian Tucker. Howdy from the Shawnee National Forest. You live there, huh? Cool. Shawnee National Forest. Or are you camping there and just happen to bring the laptop? Anyhow, the Dutchman does exist. There's too much stuff and the number of stories. You know, there's a certain point you have to believe there's fire, and that's what created the smoke. There was no reason for Julia Thomas and Reinhard Petrasch to do anything they did, nothing for Waltz. There was just too much base there. Now, is there $50 million, $100 million, $10 million, $1 million of gold in the mine? Who knows? The only part we can kind of believe to some degree about it is Jim Bark wanted to make it accurate that they told the exact same story. And they both did it separately, and then he quizzed them both and went through it again, and they were identical in all cases. So it makes you believe that whatever Waltz told them, they were telling Jim Bark verbatim. Now, what Jim Bark didn't print, I've always said I'd love to get the notes and things he wrote down that are not published. Not Sims Ely's stuff, but Jim Bark stuff. That would be the stuff from the Spangler family if it was existing. It would be the most interesting because we know he talked to Reinhard Petrasch. We know he talked to Julia Thomas. We know he was out there at the Quarter Circle U and he was running the mountains at that time. We know he saw them when they were first in the mountain. There's a lot of information there that's really important probably. Will help you find the mine. possibly not, but it will let you know the reality of the mind. So, and Waltz never veered from anything. You know, it was a very odd story because he could have just said, "Yeah, you go into my mind, and you know, it's back in this canyon. It has an iron door." No, it was a very odd thing. It was at a royal. It was at a steep incline. It was a pit, and it was like a funnel, inverted funnel. You put it down in there, and then it kind of sloped out. And the description of it was very detailed and very different than a lot of things that you would expect. I wouldn't think Petrash or Julie Thomas could have brought that up or brought that out. So there's a lot to the story. It really bugs me when I drop something on the floor and I don't want to on camera reach down and get it. So anyhow, howdy from the Shawnees, and then $1 billion mega million. $1 billion. Yeah, but if you win the $1 billion, the payout's $400 million, and then they're taxing that. So the tax on $400 million is what, at about 40%? So you're cutting it down to 200 and say 10. Let's say 215 million. So you win $1 billion, you get 215 million. After everything's said and done, you'll have 215 million, and then you gotta hope you're not split. I mean, it's just it keeps dividing itself. I feel bad for the person that wins it because then everybody's gonna come after him. I'd like to win like one that's small enough, one of those quick ones that is like, oh, it was 4.5 million and nobody cared. And then you just, take the 30-year payouts on that. It'll get you through and stuff. I don't know how that all works, but see, to me, that's so much easier because you're never on the radar and you just kind of quietly kind of go about your business. The big one, this one, frickin', every con man in the nation's going to know your name. And it's just going to be impossible. And just the taxes alone. I don't understand how we put the money in, they create this thing, and then they tax the hell out of us. I mean, fix a road for a change, would you? Do something with it, Do something. I mean, God. Yeah, just think about that, Basically $1 billion, and half of it will end up going nowhere. So, I don't know. Our government can waste money like nobody else. 37% tax rate. So, yeah, I was pretty much in there. And I'm pretty sure my numbers are about right. The 37% tax rate after the payout, if you took the payout, which is about 400 and some odd million, 400 under 5, it's between 4 and 500 million. Yeah, you're going to get down in that number. So, that kind of is the thing that sucks, is you're going to sit there and say, well, I won $1 billion, but I only get 200 million. So, Elon Musk is laughing at us all still. What a scam. Yeah, way wrong. 650 million is the take home. Okay, and still your taxes on that, 40%, it's still a huge cut. You're getting taxed on God. And another 10% when you spend it. Yeah, well, not only that, next year, because it sits in the bank, you're going to be paying for it again. Unless you're spending some serious money on some people. I would give most of it away. I'd like to make it to the Rendezvous this year. What do I need to bring? Any tips? Yes, bring yourself. Bring a sleeping bag. Bring some food to eat. Bring some water. There are toilets there. There is no water available there. Ice, you can run back in town. Or we do make trips and then yell out, hey, does anybody need ice? And then you can chip in and we'll bring back a cooler with a bunch of bags of ice and stuff. Bring yourself. Bring some food to eat. Bring a chair. Bring a chair. If there's more than one of you, bring more than one chair. So you got some place to sit, and not just for the evening, but during the day and stuff, because you'll want to move around and stuff and find places in the shade to sit and talk with people. And it's just like if you found $1 billion of gold in the wilderness area tomorrow and gold bars, thinking that you would get 20% of that. Because that's legally, I think what they say, right? Isn't it 19-20% legally is what you would get as a finder's fee or the finders keepers type of rule, and the government gets the rest. Good luck on that one. So, bring a guitar. Yeah, if you want to bring a guitar, bring a guitar. I sometimes bring a guitar. Sometimes I bring a guitar and I play it. Sometimes I bring a guitar and I don't play it. Sometimes it just sits in the truck. What? Okay, time to wrap up. Being told it's time to wrap up because we're getting out there. Okay. So, thank you everybody for coming in. I'm hoping to have an RV for the Rendezvous. Yeah, and there's plenty. I brought a guitar. But, yeah, there's plenty of parking up in the upper lot, plenty of room and stuff, and there's area down in the lower area if you want to put the RV down there. on the southern area, right? The southern part of that. So, God, this thing's a little loud today. Enjoy your pizza, guys. Yes, it's pizza time, and we have to go do a couple other things, so got a couple errands run. So, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad I was able to be here this week and do this. Hope I answered all the questions. I tried to remember the questions I didn't answer last time and catch some of that stuff up. And if there's anything I missed this time, I will catch it the next time. So, very good evening to everybody. Everybody have a great weekend. Hey, I'm almost word for word, and he's typing it out for me as I read it. But it's not always a great chat, but it kills time for all of us, and it's always kind of fun and interesting. So until the next time, always remember, you guys got it right. I'm Wayne Tuttle. You're not. This isn't Chasing Legends, but we were live. Have a great weekend. Have a great evening. I will catch you guys next week. Bye-bye. There you go.